Are you tired of the current housing market? Wouldn't you like to find a nice quiet place that's surrounded by natural beauty where you can live out your days in peace? Well, look no further than Subnautica. Subnautica is a paradise unlike anything you've ever seen before. Just a glimpse at any of its immaculate environments will leave you speechless. And of course, within these environments, we've built state-of-the-art housing for you to live in peace and harmony with nature. But of course, such incredible housing is going to come at a cost, which is decided based on this pricing structure. First, we take into account all the materials that were used to build the housing. This may sound like a lot, but don't worry. Each material has been meticulously measured and matched to the market price, so you'll never be overcharged. Don't believe us? Here is the price for each of the material in an easy to understand chart. Next, we take into account the location of the housing. And after looking at various aspects of the location, including factors like space, availability, customer demand, and rarity within the world, we've come up with a flat percentage change in price for each location. And we have illustrated the pricing change with this chart here. We also take into account the surface area of the estate. A larger estate will have a higher price. Think of it like a tax to counter wealth disparity. We tried to make it as fair as possible for all payment tiers. But of course, we had to cap it at 25% because taking any more from the hard workers in high tier housing would feel like a crime. Finally, our pricing also takes into account the unruly fauna in the area around the housing. For each type of unruly fauna nearby, we will give a flat percentage decrease to the final price of an estate. Please take a look at this chart for the exact numbers. And that's our entire pricing structure. If you aren't satisfied with this explanation and would like to learn more, we did a more detailed explanation over in this video. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, we'd love to show you some of our lovely houses to our incredibly beautiful and stylish Okay, fine. Actually, before we get started, there's something we need to address. In one of our previous videos, we used the player's hand as a reference to measure all of the raw materials in Subnautica. However, many viewers took issue with that method of measuring, stating, very kindly, that we could just use the meters in the depth meter at the top of the screen to measure the raw materials. Which is, of course, a brilliant suggestion. Are they correct though? Let's take a look. So of course, this number at the top refers to how many meters below the surface the player is. But to use it to measure other things, we'll need to actually measure a meter out within the world, and then compare that measured meter to the raw materials. So, we will start the measure from the water's surface, which is, of course, the 0 meter. Now we need to find the distance from the 0 meter to the 1 meter. And once we find that, we can assume that the distance in between is approximately 1 meter. To do this, I placed a foundation platform very close to the surface, and then swam from the surface down to the platform. If when the player touches the platform, the depth meter changes to 1 meter, then that should mean that the distance from the water surface down to the platform is approximately 1 meter. Great. Now we can use this to measure one of those pieces of raw materials by simply putting it on the platform. Let's try some titanium. Okay, and now if we step back and take a look, we can see that the titanium is probably about 0.2 to 0.3 meters, or 20 to 30 centimeters. Great, measured. So, can the depth meter be used to measure objects in Subnautica? Absolutely. So why didn't we use it for our measurements? Well, the short answer is accuracy. Sure, the distance between the platform and the surface is about 1 meter. However, despite having an accurate form of measurement, the most we can do with it is use it as a size reference by comparing it to pieces of raw material. And when using a size reference to measure something else, is it better to use a larger reference or one that's of similar size? Let's look at an example real quick. If I wanted to get the approximate size of this mouse using a reference, I would want to use something that has a familiar and well-defined size. Let's say a male human body. The size of one of these is usually about 165 to 180 centimeters. Now comparing this to the little mouse, sure, you could approximate the mouse's size to be about 10 to 20 centimeters, and you might be right. But what if you had access to a different reference that's closer to the mouse in size? Say maybe a human hand. Well, a hand is generally about 16 to 18 centimeters long. And so, looking at it as a reference next to the mouse, we can make a closer and more accurate approximation for the mouse's size, which seems to be around 5 to 10 centimeters long. And we used much the same process when measuring materials in Subnautica. Sure, we could use a meter to measure the materials, but why use such a large reference when a much smaller one is sitting right in front of our face? And so for this reason, we decided to use the hand as a reference instead of a meter measured by the depth meter. We of course thank you for your interest though. Remember, if you have any questions, concerns, or complaints about our company or business, please direct them towards the comment section below. Okay, now if you're ready, we have some amazing Subnautica houses to introduce you to. And perhaps one of them will even become your future home. Take a look. Today's housing is located in the luscious Kelp Forest. The Kelp Forest is easily accessible from the surface and is one of the most diverse biomes in all of Subnautica. This is primarily thanks to the towering flora known as the creepvine. The creepvine attaches itself to the seafloor and grows all the way to the surface. Some of them even measure over 100 meters in length. They are so plentiful within the kelp forest that the light that bounces off their leaves causes everything in the area to have a greenish tint. And though this tint is unpopular with many buyers, some are enticed by the creepvine's beautiful bioluminescent seeds. The seeds grow out in clusters from the creepvine's stalk and glow a bright yellow color. The sight of them is particularly magnificent when the sun goes down. And so, due to its ease of access and medium amount of demand, the price change for this location is an increase of 10%. Now, due to the shade and cover provided by the creepvines, many small fish lurk in the area. But so does their predator, the stalker. Stalkers are human-sized fish with extremely hard and razor-sharp teeth. They love to chew things like fish, metal salvage, and occasionally even people. But because of their slow swim speed and short attention span, a stalker bite can be easily avoided by the vigilant. But of course, because of their presence in this location, we will reduce the base price of an estate by an additional 5%. Okay, now that you're familiar with the location, it's time to introduce the housing. Alright, once again, hello. This is the affordable tier housing option in the Kelp Forest. Today, of course, we have a lovely affordable tier house that we would absolutely love to show you. Are you ready? Well, here it is. Wow. This affordable tier housing in the Kelp... This is... Go away. This is the affordable tier housing in the Kelp Forest. Unlike many of the other housing options, this is a very, very affordable tier house. Now I'm sure you're very eager to find out what the inside of this housing looks like. Well, why don't we go on in? Wow. Did you think it would look this nice on the inside? Now, we are very familiar with the financial situations of affordable tier housing people, as their payments never arrive on time. So for this housing, our goal was to provide the cheapest possible house that even the the most unfortunate of you can still make your payments on time. This way, there will be no more, "Oh, I can't afford food," or "Stop raising the rent every month" excuses, because we get way too many of those. Now, this house is very specially designed to be entirely contained within a single tube. You might think this would make the housing too dark or too small. And, well, we thought of that and decided to make the walls entirely out of glass to let in natural light and open up the space a little. Nice. And now, even though you're in an extremely cramped and somewhat claustrophobic housing, you feel a bit less claustrophobic because you can see the beautiful kelp and sometimes even the mildly dangerous stalkers that swim around you. You may lack a bit of privacy, but what do you expect at this price? Of course, you have a radio to make yourself feel better that someone might one day contact you, I guess. I doubt it, but Not sure why anyone would do that. And here is a locker to keep all of your, I don't know. Do you have clothes? Keep your clothes, I guess. And also, we gave you a shelf so you can show off whatever you might. What would affordable tier housing want to show off? And now, because of the housing's somewhat confined nature, it was somewhat difficult to fit a bed in here. So instead, we decided to add a table and chair. This way you can still, well, you might not be able to sleep. But if you would like to rest, you can sit here in this chair. Oh. Well, you might want to fix that. And finally, apparently, they say that even affordable tier housing people need to have some sort of beauty to spice up their shack or whatever. And so it was decided that we would put in a picture to make your house feel a little less lonely. Now, of course, you are affordable tier housing, and therefore the picture was somewhat hard to find at your price range. So we opted for taking a picture of the outside of your house, which means every time you leave your house and enter your house, you will be greeted by the same lovely view. No one else has something like that. I guess no one else wants something like that. Alright, well, that should be good, I guess. So let's take a look at the pricing for this. Oh. Yeah, be careful of them. Wow. Anyway, so that should be good. So let's take a look at the price for this housing. $50,000. Great. So affordable. Now, if you would like to bid on this house, the bidding will begin after this video. So, I guess you can do that then. Alright, that's enough. Let's go. Hello everyone, and welcome to the tour for the medium tier housing option in the Kelp Forest. Now, this estate is not just a house, but also doubles as a restaurant. So, let's take a look. The first floor is the eating area for the restaurant, and therefore it is set up to be particularly inviting to guests that enter your establishment. Here at the entrance, you can see that we've lined the walls with some subliminal messaging and some images of this restaurant's specialty food. Now, passing through the hallway brings you to the lovely restaurant. Now, if you count all the seats, you can see that the restaurant holds up to a total of 9 customers, with 4 different groups. Now, if you'd really like to increase your profits, you could probably have another 3 or 4 customers stand over here in this corner, bringing the total number of possible customers to 13. Now, over here we have a bit more subliminal messaging signs, and another example of the delicacies that your restaurant will provide. Of course, over here is an easy way for your customers to enjoy some snacks. And there is even a drink bar, so your customers may enjoy a nice cup of coffee. Lovely. And now over here is a trash can, so your customers can take care of all their trash after they've been satisfied with your delicious meal. And okay, I think that's about it for the first floor of the restaurant. So let's... Thank you. So let's head up to the preparation room. This is where you could prepare all of the meals for your customers. This is the fabricator where you will do all of your cooking. And over here is the tank, filled with all the little fish that will sate your customers' hungry bellies. Hoverfish. To prepare a meal, all you need to do is go into this tank from this hatch here and grab a hoverfish or 2, or maybe just a couple. Okay, seems good. Great. All right, and then head over to the fabricator and start cooking. Now, you might notice that the hoverfish in the tank will continue to watch you while you're cooking up their little friends to be devoured. But there's no need to worry about this. We assure you that their witnessing the incineration of their friend will have no effect on how much they breed, or, when it comes time, how delicious they'll taste. Delicious. We should also mention that if your business becomes profitable enough, you may want to hire someone else to do the busy work of preparing delicious hoverfish for your customers. That way you can spend your time on other profit-making ventures. And, in fact, right nearby is some low-tier housing that will contain a destitute resident. They might be a bit lazy and unintelligent, obviously, since they are a low-tier housing buyer, but that should mean that you can pay them an extremely low wage, and they'd likely accept due to necessity. So whatever you don't pay in wage, you can pocket for yourself. Okay, and finally, at the very top of the restaurant is your humble abode. A quiet little room that gives some views of the beautiful Kelp Forest, and a place to sleep, as well as a little place to work. Okay, and I think that's about it for the medium tier housing. So, why don't we go look at the price? Okay, and that concludes our tour for the medium tier housing option in the Kelp Forest. The total price for this housing comes to $11,260,000. Okay, if you would like to bid on this housing, the bidding will begin at the end of this video. If you're interested in moving up to higher tier housing in the future, this housing might be the way to do it. So, we hope to see you again soon. Hello everyone, and welcome to the high tier housing option in the Kelp Forest. Now, today's housing is very unique. Not only will it provide housing to you, the buyer, but it also doubles as a research facility. Why don't we go take a look inside? And now, before we get started, we'd like to specify something. When we say research facility, we of course don't mean for you, our wonderful high-tier housing buyers. We are quite aware that you're much too busy to slave away at any sort of tedious research. No, this facility is made specifically so that any researchers and scientists that you hire will have the perfect environment to flourish and discover wonderful new things that you can quickly slap a patent on and make a profit off of. And so this room here is intended to be the reception room to any researchers that arrive to your estate by Flipper. The room is fitted with some benches and chairs to allow the exhausted researchers a moment to rest after their long swim. They'll be greeted by this adorable little toy and a nice cup of coffee. Once they're finished rejuvenating, you, well, of course not you, but one of your servants may show them to their rooms. That's right, we provided living quarters for the researchers so that they can remain on your premises indefinitely. Thank you. And this way, you can maximize the labor that they provide you. The first set of rooms is over here to the left. This set of rooms is a suite. The researchers will only be separated by a thin wall, but they will have a door, giving the two of them some privacy. Now, each researcher is provided with a bed, a locker, a lovely little picture, and a plant in their room, to make them feel just a little bit more at home on the estate. Now over here we have a rec room, so the researchers may mingle and have some coffee. If you give them any free time, that is. And now, over here we have another room. Though this room is a bit larger, it does have a little less privacy due to the lack of a door. And over here is the final researcher room. This is the smallest room available, and with no door, it also has the least amount of privacy. Now, this was intentional, as we expect you to use this room as punishment to denigrate any researcher that fails to meet quotas. We expect that it should instill competition, forcing many of them to work harder to keep out of this poverty, less advantageous room. You might even get some unpaid labor out of it. All right, let's move on. Now, additionally, you might notice these signs that contain strange phrases. Well, Actually, these are science words. We hope that these word signs scattered throughout the estate will keep the researchers' brains focused on science to force them to do better research. Okay, now heading over here is the appliances station. If your researchers ever need access to a battery charger to charge their tools, a health kit to take care of any cuts or bruises, a fabricator to help provide them with their basic necessities, and a radio to contact their friends and family, they can come to this room. Now, of course, these devices are all down here outside of the research area, so they may be made inaccessible during their work hours, which I find to be more preferable than letting them use them whenever they want. Speaking of which, let's go up and see the research area. We made it our priority to provide your researchers with the perfect environment to research. And so, up here we prepared a greenhouse that contains all of the known species of terrestrial plant life on Subnautica. Should your researchers ever need to study any of these, they can come to this room and examine them. And once they've made a discovery, they can come over here to the office area. This is where your researchers will be spending the majority of their time, writing research papers and learning new things to utilize in the fabrication for your next big product. You might have even noticed that there's 2 more chairs here than there are rooms. That is because we expected that some researchers may want to commute daily to your estate instead of living on the premises. These chairs may be used by them. Additionally, there is also an observation deck for your researchers to make quick observations of the ocean life outside without even needing to leave your estate. Now, up here, we have the aquarium. Wow. This aquarium houses every commonly edible fish in Subnautica. If any of the researchers would like to make some observations, they can simply enter the aquarium and then find the fish they'd like to study. Let's see. Ooh, that one looks really tasty. And observe it in its natural habitat. Wow, look at that. Ooh. Now over here is the moon pool. This is where your researchers that commute by Seamoth will arrive. Now at this point, I think I know what you're thinking. Isn't this estate massive? Why, yes it is. In fact, this estate takes up more surface area of the planet than any other estate on Subnautica. And additionally, since it's located within the Kelp Forest, such an unprecedented sized estate called for an equally unprecedented culling of huge swaths of the creepvine in the area. Now, of course, some people may take issue with us destroying so many natural environments on this beautiful planet. But don't worry, with the research achieved by you, the high tier buyer, and through this estate, and I guess through some of your researchers, you could become one of the most revered figures in science today. And maybe one day, your breakthroughs will save the creepvines from being destroyed ever again. Whatever would any of us do without the brilliance and diligence of you, the high-tier buyers? Anyway, let's move on to the final room your researchers will be utilizing, the lab. This door is the entrance to the lab, a sterile environment where your researchers can do hands-on experiments. Follow me. So of course, there is proper safety signage here. So good that not even OSHA would fine you, if they had jurisdiction, of course. Now, upon entering, your researchers will need to change to a radiation suit as a precaution. Let's see. There we go. Okay, and once prepared, they can head through this door to the lab. Here we have all sorts of scientific equipment set up, as well as encouraging word signs scattered about. There's even a desk where your researchers can record their findings. Such a state-of-the-art research facility is sure to attract many of the best scientists to your estate, leading to faster breakthroughs and more profits. Now, upon leaving, for safety, your researchers will need to change out of their radiation suit and back to their normal clothes. And after a hard day of lab work, your researchers can take a quick break outside the lab at these lovely chairs we have set up. Doesn't it look lovely? Okay, and that concludes the researcher section for the estate. Heading this way leads us to your area of the estate, should you choose to purchase this housing, of course. First is a reception room. Here, if you'd like to receive your researchers for a little pep talk, or maybe just give them one of your riveting speeches, they may come here where you may entertain them with your charm and some food. Well, where does the food come from? That's a great question. Well, over here, we've also prepared a culinary area where a chef may prepare your food. And on occasion, maybe even food for your guests as well. The ingredients come from this fish tank and from growing naturally right here on the premises. Now, once the ingredients have been gathered, your chef can prepare your meal over here in the preparation room. They can even prepare you some delicious coffee. Yeah, and even a snack from this vending machine here. It's totally up to you whether you'd like to reimburse your chef for the snacks they buy you from this vending machine or not. And of course, to properly motivate your chef, encouraging word signs have been placed around the preparation room. Now, I think I can sense your worry. Who would want to have a stranger wandering around their house, even if they're preparing me food? Well, we understand this, and this is why we took the utmost precautions to make sure your chef remains within the food preparation area, unless delivering food. To do this, we place strategically placed word signs throughout their work area, so they're always aware of the rules. We've even made a separate hatch, so you don't need to use the same entrance as them. Additionally, if you are searching for someone to prepare your foods, I hear there's a culinary expert nearby in the medium tier housing, not too far from here. There may also be a low tier housing buyer with some restaurant experience, but I wouldn't suggest one of those lazy low tier housing buyers to work in your lovely home. And at last, through here, we have your quarters. First is the business room. With a table and chair set up, you can take meetings, enjoy a meal, or dine with family and friends, or take an important business call from your radio, all from the comfort of your own home. And then, of course, we have your magnificent room. This room is a haven encased in glass, so you may enjoy the dazzling views of the Kelp Forest while relaxing after a grueling day of business deals and scientific discoveries. Okay, that concludes our tour of the high-tier housing in the Kelp Forest. The price of this estate comes to $118,780,000. Wow, great! Very reasonable for the opportunities it provides. Now, after a quick check with your finances, you may bid on this housing once this video ends. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're incredibly grateful that you could take the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. We truly hope we can see you again soon here in Subnautica. Hello everyone, we hope you enjoyed today's tours of the Kelp Forest housing. And now, as always, it's time for the bidding. Although, before we begin, we'd like to mention that we are aware that many of our audience has been displeased with how the private equity firm Dark Boulder has been able to buy out every single property up until now. We sympathize with you, and so we've decided that for this one time only, we will not take any offers from Dark Boulder. So, if you want to bid, now's the chance. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, bid! What? The bidding hasn't started yet. Yes? Uh-huh. Oh, really? Wow. Okay, thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you for your patience. We'd like to make a quick correction. We've just been informed by our lawyers that the private equity firm Dark Boulder has threatened to sue us for lost revenue if we refuse their right to bid in a free and fair manner. Therefore, we'd like to issue an apology to Dark Boulder. It was not our intention to stop you from exercising your right to outbid individuals with your overwhelming piles of cash. You're always welcome to bid for our property. And so, let's finally get this show on the road. The bidding starts in 3, 2, 1, bid! Hello? Yes? Alright, thanks. Okay, the bidding is finished, and the private equity firm Dark Boulder has won the bid for every estate. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Tune in next time for more housing tours and another chance to bid on the house of your dreams. Here's a quick peek at where our tours will take us next time. Anyway, hello everyone and oh, fuck off, dude. Jesus Christ. I'm trying to do a fucking show here. Alright, anyway. Hello everyone and welcome to the tour for the medium tier house